Witness one here. So, you guys need to start practicing semen retention and stop looking at porn. Girls, you need to stop masturbating, and the same. And you'll start stacking frequency and energy. Months and months and months and months into semen retention. And I was in a place the other day, and man, them girls was going crazy. See, look at that. There he is. There you are. Sometimes it's just a matrix flowing through. But they're always looking. See the blue and the red? That's the matrix sometimes too. Sometimes it's them. So yeah, practice the semen retention. Practice fasting. Long periods of fasting, especially if you got a place to live. Once you make it past the first day, it's easier the second day. And then after the second day, they come fast after that. And those, you guys need to realize that those Christians and those, a lot of the sheep are just under a spell at the church, and they're deceived. All those pastors and those people in authority figures in each and every one of all those churches are Masons. Imagine how much they laugh when they do their Masonic stuff and laugh at everybody thinking they're tricking them. And they're real selective on who they let in. Only the shitty ones, not the Ishmaels. You understand? The Ishmaels, not the Isaacs. Islam, the Catholics and all of them, they're Saturn worshipers too. What you need to look up is the poles on Saturn and how they all rotate opposite directions. Okay? And then you look up Mecca, where all those Muslims go, and they circle one direction and another layer circles another, and it's the same as Saturn. And they go in the middle there and they kiss that rock, that meteor that they have there. They worship a rock over there. And that's the same thing, Saturn worship. That's what Islam is. So you need to investigate that, because, that way you got knowledge of what you're dealing with, And, I was working a long time today, like 11 hours. Wasn't easy. It's hard out here. You got to hustle. And, I was working with them narcissists and all that stuff. And you're going to deal with them, everywhere you go. And if you're not getting directed energy or whatever yet, you soon will be if you start fighting. If you want to fight, you want to try it out, look up Win Worley Warfare Prayer Booklet. If you want to know how to fight these guys, look up Binding and Loosing Prayers and listen to Win Worley. He did mass deliverances and stuff. The key to all this thing is deliverance. You understand what deliverance is? The casting out of devils. When you can do that, then the scripture's clear. And in my name they shall cast out devils. So that's what Jesus said before he left the earth. And it's true. I've been telling you guys about the prayers, and he's not who you think he is and all those things. It is his plan. You got to understand and line yourself up with what he's doing. You just floating around trying to survive and all that ain't good enough. You understand? What they claim at church and who he is, that's not him. He is a lot different than that. You need to start looking back how he treated those people in the Old Testament. And you got to remember, this thing's winding down here. And they're fulfilling the prophecy. That's what's so funny about it, is these clowns, they're the ones that are fulfilling the prophecy. They are. Every single bit of it. And I kept noticing that. I was like, what? They're doing it. See, they're thinking they're bringing about... they see America as the new Atlantis. The new Jerusalem. That's why there's those obelisks. Look for all those obelisks all over the United States. There's one in Washington, D.C. They got obelisks all over and down in Texas and stuff like that. These guys have got an agenda, and the agenda is taking over the world with their belief in Lucifer, you know, and they're not going to change your mind. A lot of those Christians at church, they're not real Christians. Most of them aren't, you know. If they're Mormon, that's the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. Watch out. Always ask them where they at, what they doing, and all the rest of them. You mightn't trust a few that are Pentecostal or Baptist, but I'd be careful of the Baptists, because Baptists are a spinoff of the Catholics. Methodists, Lutherans are spinoff of the Catholics. Don't trust them. Methodist, Lutheran, anything that has Catholicism in it. If you go in there and you see a cross and it's got the sun back behind it, look it up, Catholicism. It's always got a sun back behind there. They are sun worshipers. They mix everything. It's a hodgepodge of everything. So, you know, you need to really investigate these religions. Islam, all of them, even these churches, all of them, don't trust any of them. You know, I run into some people, you know, they're normal people, but not often. They like to surround me with nothing but masons. I worked a job and a guy was a mason. Him and I talked all day long. We cut a giant tree up and took it to the dump. And he was a mason. And you know what? I sat there and talked to him. He was a Mormon, but they're Masonic. Joseph Smith was a Mason. And look it up. It's well known that that's what he was. And I talked and worked with him. He was my boss all day long, and we worked together, and I showed him the scriptures, and we kind of did had a game of tennis or pickleball or something, back and forth. And, you know, at the end of the day, I said, well, you know, and I meant it. I said, I can't remember what his name was. He was out there trying to work hard, and he was having a hard time. Even those guys, he was getting a divorce, and he was going through hell trying to just make rent, and he was doing jobs for less than half of the price they were worth. And he was just trying to make it, you know. And that's how it is out here. And he knew a lot, dude. He informed me a lot about the Mormons that I didn't know about. And I asked him questions all day long. And I told him, and then when we would argue, it would be a respectful argument back and forth, and I would use the scriptures to prove my point. And, you know, he respected that. And at the end of the day, I told him, I said, hey, man, you think you're right, but I know I'm right. I told him, and I said, but, you know, heaven wouldn't be the same without you. You know, and I left it at that. They're not going to change. They are programmed. You understand? They program them in their minds. You will never convert them over. And Jesus is real. But when you find out about these Masons, their stuff goes all the way back to Babylon. Nimrod was the first Mason because he built the Tower of Babel trying to make it to heaven. You understand? And Nimrod was Noah's great grandson. And Noah lived another 350 years after the flood. Noah lived a total of 950 years. That's when the how long they lived started dissipating, right? And so Nimrod took those beliefs he had and created Babylon with them. And Babylon, when Egypt came along, they adopted the Babylonian beliefs. And it all has to do, it lines right up with the Son, Jesus, all of it. Every single bit of it. The Trinity, Jesus, the Son. When the sun gets at high noon, if you listen to that Bill Cooper, like I was saying, when the sun hits high noon, that's the Most High. It lines all up with our scripture, you know, thousands of years before Jesus ever came along. But the funny thing about it is that's what Jesus does. I think he came along just to prove to them that he was the Son and that they were wrong. But they took those beliefs in all that way before Jesus ever came along. Now that Bill Cooper talks about he only read the red letters and all that stuff. I don't believe, don't listen to him about his relationship with the Lord, because I don't think he didn't know how to interpret the Bible, but he did know 100% about the secret societies. And there's another guy named Jordan Maxwell. He knows all about the secret societies, and that is good information for you, so you can add it to your repertoire of knowledge on what you're dealing with. Because if you know your enemy, you can defeat him. And there's ways to defeat your enemy if you know everything. But if you're stupid and in the dark, you can't see your hand in front of your face. But when you walk as a child of God in the light, you see clearly. But you still got to do the research. So do the research. And listen to those guys about the secret society, but don't you ever dare listen to them about Jesus. You understand? The Son of God. Now, you come up with you don't have to believe me in any of this. I'm telling you, just like my professor told me, do the research on your own. Come up with your own conclusions to it all, and just keep doing research. And your truth will evolve as you go. And that's what he said. Do the research. Don't believe me, but do your research. And come up with your own truth. And that'll be a solid truth for you. Everybody else doesn't have to come up with it. But the deeper you go in the research, the more truth you will find. And so that's what I'm propositioning to you. Do the research. Don't be lazy. If you got time to sit there and watch TV, let me tell you, you want to become a spiritual giant, exchange two things. How much time you spend in front of the TV, on social media, playing video games, over to reading the Bible. If you switch that over, you'll be surprised how far you will go. And I know it's discouraging. I'm discouraged, I have my days too. And, I've been out here a long time doing this. And it has its ups. It's a roller coaster ride. And I mean, it's scary, and Bill Cooper knew they were going to take him out. And what happened to him was they sent two IRS agents up to his house in plain clothes. But the IRS agents acted like they were kids, young teenage kids, and they were playing loud music out in his driveway and stuff like that. And when he confronted them, that's when they killed him. And they got away with it. You understand? So, I mean, if you want to fight these guys, look up Win Worley, Warfare Prayers, and it's about binding and loosing and sending the curses back and everything. And read those, and you will notice right away the next day an increase of people following you. Your gang stalking will increase dramatically. But you got, if you want to do it, I warn against not to, because when I did it, I was like, holy cow, man, I didn't even make it out of the driveway before cars were zoom, 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 and the gang stalking. I was just like, what in the hell? And I made it to where I was working under my boss, and he was like, how's it going? I was like, man, dude, I said these prayers, and there's crazy shit going off everywhere. And I knew when it was time to stop working for my boss. I'm going to tell you why. Why? Because the weather. I keep telling you about the weather. This was in Missoula, Montana. Yep. And a train, he used to have a train that went kind of by his property going up the mountain, up Evero Hill. And it was a steep hill, and the train has to rotate and cut back and forth and wind up to go up in the mountains up on the Indian reservation up there in Arley, the Blackfoot Indian Reservation. And it starts in Missoula. And one of the bearings on the train locked up, and it was sparking, and it caused a fire to come on my boss's property. And I was like, oh man, that's not good. If that ain't God saying something, I don't know what is. And then the very next day, his neighborhood they say golf ball, they were projecting golf ball size hail coming into his neighborhood the very next day after his property caught on fire, right? And they were expecting it out, in a large area, but it didn't. It was only in his neighborhood, and it wasn't golf ball size. It was softball size hail. In Montana, that's unheard of. You might see something like that down in Oklahoma and Texas and stuff like that, and I didn't believe him. I said, the funny thing was, he had it destroyed his roof, his shop where we did trim packages, painting doors and trim and stuff. He had a special shop for painting, a paint shop up there. And I mean, it destroyed everything. He just put 2 brand new windshields in him and his son's truck, and it destroyed those. And I didn't believe him. He said, "You don't believe me? Go look at my hot tub cover." And I went and looked at his hot tub cover, and it's made out of foam, and it has like this cheap leather skin on it. And I looked at the holes, and it was softball size hail. And every time I went to go do something with him, something would get destroyed by the weather with this guy. And I was like, man, I separated ways from him. I ain't never seen him since. And the last time I did see him, his drinking, it was so out of control, he couldn't even finish his coffee in the morning before he was drinking a beer. And so, that's how I ended it with him. But these Masons are infiltrated in every single church. Do not let somebody sucker you into going to church. Do not donate your money to a church or none of them fools, because what you're doing is you're giving money to Satan. So, and they got plenty, I promise you. And I know lots of them. So, if you ever come to Montana, you stay away from these churches. Cornerstone Bible Church in Hamilton, Montana. Lolo Community Church in Lolo, Montana. That Pastor Jeff is a Mason, and they ain't got nothing but alphabet boys all in that thing. Now, all of them are Masons. And alphabet guys, FBI, CIA, Department of Justice, everything in that place. If you go into Missoula, stay away from Open Door Baptist Church, and especially Lighthouse Baptist Church. That guy, Tom Lemons, is a military Mason. Just stay away. And I would just stay away from a church, period, if you can. So this is some good advice. Bill Cooper, Jordan Maxwell, listen to them preaching on the secret societies, and you will learn a lot. And I'm going to leave it at that. Have a good one. Bye.